The Definitive Master Breakdown Atomic Habits, Section I Foundations and System Philosophy 1. The Traumatic Origin and Systemic Recovery. The foundational thesis of Atomic Habits stems from a life-altering event experienced by James Clear in 18th grade, high school sophomore year, in 2002. While playing baseball, an accidental blow from a flying baseball bat shattered his face, fracturing his nose, skull, and both eye sockets. The impact caused severe brain swelling, leading to immediate post-traumatic seizures and requiring him to be placed in a medically induced coma at a specialized hospital in Cincinnati. His recovery process was long and arduous. He suffered temporary loss of smell, structural displacement of his eye sockets, double vision, and an 8-month driving ban imposed due to neurological risk. His athletic performance suffered a massive blow when he was cut from his high school varsity baseball team as a junior. He managed to play only 11 total innings during his senior varsity baseball season. When Clear enrolled at Denison University in the fall of 2002, he realized he could not control his physical recovery through willpower alone. Instead, he focused on building micro-level daily routines. He instituted strict sleep hygiene, kept his dorm room immaculate, executed consistent study habits, and adhered to a structured strength training program. Over 4 years, these atomic habits compounded into extraordinary outcomes. He increased his body weight from 170 to 200 pounds of solid muscle. He earned straight A's during his freshman year and ultimately received the President's Medal, the highest academic honor bestowed by Denison University. He was selected as Denison's top male athlete and named to the ESPN Academic All-America team. This journey proved that long-term success is not a function of radical overnight transformations, but rather the mathematical accumulation of small, consistent decisions executed every day. 2. The growth of the systems framework. In November 2012, Clear launched his website, committing to write and publish a new essay every Monday and Thursday regarding behavioral science, habit formation, and performance optimization. The public interest grew rapidly. Within months, his email subscriber base reached 1,000 readers. By late 2013, his subscriber list grew to 30,000 people. By 2014, the subscriber base expanded to 100,000. By 2015, it reached 200,000. By 2018, when Atomic Habits was published, nearly 500,000 people read his weekly newsletter. He established the Habits Academy, a specialized platform that has trained over 10,000 leaders, executives, managers, and teachers. 3. Combining cognitive neuroscience and behavioral science. Clear synthesized his framework by combining earlier behavioral models, such as B.F. Skinner's operant conditioning model of stimulus, response, and reward, alongside Charles Duhigg's habit loop of cue, routine, and reward. With modern cognitive neuroscience, traditional 20th century behavioral science treated the brain as a black box that merely reacted to external physical stimuli. Clear updated this perspective by demonstrating that external stimuli must first be filtered through cognitive interpretation, emotional processing, and personal identity before a physical response is produced. Section 2. The core mechanics of compounding gains. 1. The mathematics of marginal gains. The core principle of Atomic Habits is rooted in the aggregation of marginal gains, a management philosophy popularized by Dave Brailsford when he took over as head of British cycling in 2003. For nearly 100 years, British professional cyclists had achieved only a single gold medal in Olympic history and had never won the Tour de France in 110 years. The team's performance was so poor that a top European bike manufacturer refused to sell equipment to them, fearing it would damage their brand image. Brailsford instituted 1% improvements across every imaginable variable, mechanical refinements, redesigned bicycle seats for ergonomic comfort, applied rubbing alcohol to tires for superior road grip, tested wind tunnel fabrics, and replaced outdoor racing suits with lighter indoor suits. Physiological adjustments, equipped riders with electrically heated overshorts to maintain optimal muscle temperature, and implemented customized biofeedback monitoring during workouts. Environmental protocols, hired a surgeon to teach riders proper hand-washing technique to eliminate colds, selected personalized pillows and mattresses for each rider's optimal sleep, and painted the interior of the team's transport truck white to detect tiny dust particles that could compromise aerodynamic tuning. Between 2007 and 2017, British cycling achieved 178 world championships, captured 66 Olympic or Paralympic gold medals, and won 5 Tour de France victories. The mathematics of 1% compounding habits operate as the compound interest of personal growth. The mathematical reality demonstrates that small shifts scale exponentially over extended periods. 1% daily improvement. Improving by 1% every day for 365 consecutive days results in being 37.78 times better by the end of the year. 1% daily decline. Declining by 1% every day for 365 consecutive days reduces your capability down to almost zero, precisely 0.03. Just as net worth is a lagging indicator of financial habits, your weight is a lagging indicator of eating habits. Your knowledge is a lagging indicator of learning habits, and clutter is a lagging indicator of cleaning habits. You get what you repeat. 2. The compounding dynamics positive compounding forces. Automating minor administrative decisions frees up mental bandwidth for high-order thinking. Reading a single page does not make you smart, but continuous learning creates mental frameworks that allow you to connect complex ideas faster. Expressing gratitude and treating people well builds reciprocal social networks. Negative compounding forces. Small daily stresses, such as minor traffic delays, financial worries, or slight physical tension, accumulate into severe chronic health issues. Negative self-talk creates internal cognitive bias, training your brain to interpret every neutral event as a personal failure. Minor social grievances compound into severe institutional hostility. 3. The plateau of latent potential and the ice cube analogy. Most people expect progress to follow a straight, linear path. However, real progress occurs on an exponential curve. The space between where you expect your results to be and where your results actually are during the early stages is known as the Valley of Disappointment. During this period, you are putting in effort, but visible outcomes remain suppressed. This is not wasted effort, it is stored potential. Clear explains this using the ice cube analogy. Imagine a room cooled to 25 degrees Fahrenheit. An ice cube sits on the table in front of you. The room begins to warm up slowly, 1 degree at a time, 26 degrees, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31 degrees. Throughout this entire process, the ice cube remains solid. Then the room reaches 32 degrees Fahrenheit. The ice cube begins to melt. A single degree temperature increase unlocks the change, but that breakthrough was made possible by all the previous degrees of heating that came before it. This aligns with Jacob Riis's observation regarding the stonecutter. A stonecutter may hammer a boulder 100 times without generating a single visible crack. Yet on the 101st blow, the stone splits in two. It was not the final blow alone that split the rock, but the cumulative impact of every strike delivered before it. 4. Why systems beat goals. Setting goals creates a focus on the target outcome, whereas building systems focuses on the daily process that leads to that outcome. Focusing purely on goals introduces 4 primary structural flaws. Winners and losers share the same goals. Every athlete competing in the Olympic Games wants to win a gold medal, and every job applicant wants to get hired. If winners and losers share identical goals, then the goal itself cannot be the variable that produces success. The system executed by the winner is what creates the difference. Goal achievement is only a momentary shift. Cleaning a messy room provides a temporary moment of order. However, if you maintain the underlying habits that created the clutter, you will quickly end up with a messy room again. Treating symptoms without fixing the system forces you to constantly repeat the same efforts. Goals restrict overall happiness. Goal setting often creates a rigid binary mindset. Either you achieve your goal and succeed, or you fall short and fail. This mindset postpones happiness until an arbitrary future milestone is reached. A systems-first mindset allows you to experience satisfaction whenever your routine is running smoothly. Goals conflict with long-term growth. Goal-oriented mindsets often produce a yo-yo effect. Runners may train hard for months to finish a marathon, but the moment they cross the finish line, they stop running altogether because the target is gone. True long-term growth is not about reaching a single finish line. It is about committing to continuous refinement of the process. Section 3, Identity-Based Habits 1. The 3 levels of behavior change. Behavior change takes place within 3 distinct layers. Layer 1, Outcomes. The outer layer. This level focuses on changing your results, such as losing 20 pounds, publishing a book, or earning a promotion. Most goals you set are positioned at this outer level. Layer 2, Processes. The middle layer. This level focuses on changing your habits and systems, such as implementing a new gym schedule, organizing your workspace, or establishing a daily writing routine. Layer 3, Identity. The deepest layer. This level focuses on changing your underlying beliefs, worldviews, self-image, and subconscious judgments about who you are. 2. Outcome-based versus identity-based approaches. The mistake most people make is attempting to build outcome-based habits. They focus on what they want to achieve, which leads to internal friction because their actions conflict with their underlying self-image. Identity-based habits reverse this direction by focusing on who you want to become. Clear illustrates this distinction using 2 individuals offered a cigarette. First individual declines by stating, "No thanks, I am trying to quit." This response implies that they still view themselves as a smoker who is actively struggling to resist temptation. Second individual declines by stating, "No thanks, I am not a smoker." This response signals a complete shift in underlying identity. Smoking is no longer part of who they are. Another example involves entrepreneur Brian Clark, who bit his fingernails for decades. He managed to stop the habit permanently only after scheduling a professional manicure. Seeing his hands look neat and clean gave him a sense of pride in his nails. Preserving that clean appearance became part of his self-image, ending his nail-biting habit without relying on willpower. 3. The etymology and mechanics of identity shift. The word identity is derived from the Latin roots essentitas, meaning being, and identidem, meaning repeatedly. Literally translated, your identity means your repeated beingness. Your self-image is built through evidence. If you make your bed every morning, you accumulate evidence that you are an organized person. If you write 1 page every afternoon, you accumulate evidence that you are a writer. If you train 3 times a week, you accumulate evidence that you are an athlete. Every action you take acts as a vote cast for the type of person you wish to become. A single vote will not transform your identity, but as votes accumulate, your self-image shifts. You do not need a unanimous vote to win an election, you simply need a majority. The two-step loop of identity shift. 1. Decide the specific type of person you want to be. 2. Prove it to yourself through small daily wins. Section IV, the four-step habit loop. 1. Thorndike's puzzle box experiment. In 1898, psychologist Edward Thorndike conducted an experiment that laid the foundation for modern behavioral psychology. He placed cats inside specially constructed wooden puzzle boxes designed with hidden levers, strings, and pedals that opened an escape door leading to food outside. When first placed inside, the cats exhibited random behaviors, clawing at the bars, poking their paws through gaps, and meowing. Eventually, through sheer chance, the cat would press the correct lever and open the door. Thorndike logged the escape times across dozens of trials. On its first 3 trials, a subject named Cat 12 took an average of 1.5 minutes to escape. By its final 3 trials, Cat 12 took an average of just 6.3 seconds to escape. Thorndike formulated the law of effect based on these findings. Behaviors followed by satisfying consequences tend to be repeated, whereas behaviors followed by unpleasant consequences are less likely to recur. 2. The 4 stages of the habit loop. Clear breaks down all human behavior into a continuous 4-stage loop. Q. The trigger that alerts your brain to a potential reward in your environment. Evolutionary cues were centered on survival assets like food, water, and shelter. Modern cues center on secondary rewards like status, money, praise, and comfort. Craving, the internal motivational force that drives action. You do not crave the actual habit itself. You crave the shift in internal state that the habit brings. You do not crave brushing your teeth. You crave the feeling of a clean mouth. Response, the physical action, mental thought, or routine you perform. Whether a response occurs depends on the balance between your motivation and the level of friction required to complete the action. Reward, the final objective of the loop. Rewards fulfill 2 primary functions. They satisfy your initial craving, and they teach your brain which actions are worth repeating in the future. 3. The problem phase versus the solution phase. The 4 steps can be divided into 2 distinct phases. The problem phase consists of the cue and the craving. This phase occurs when you recognize that a change in your environment or internal state is needed. The solution phase consists of the response and the reward. This phase occurs when you take action to achieve that desired change and satisfy the craving. 4. Real-world applications of the 4-step loop. Mobile notifications. Your phone vibrates with a text. Cue. You want to know who messaged you. Craving. You pick up your phone and open the message. Response. You satisfy your curiosity. Reward. Workplace fatigue. You hit a wall while working on a complex project. Cue. You want to relieve mental exhaustion. Craving. You open a browser tab and scroll social media for 10 minutes. Response. You temporarily feel relieved from work stress. Reward. Morning coffee. You wake up feeling groggy. Cue. You want to feel energized and alert. Craving. You brew and drink a cup of coffee. Response. You feel alert and awake. Reward. Section V. The first law. Make it obvious. 1. Non-conscious processing and brain mechanics. With enough repetition, your brain processes environmental cues automatically, without conscious intervention. The human brain operates as a prediction system, continuously cataloging sensory details to construct behavioral responses. Medical intuition. An experienced paramedic saved her father-in-law's life during a family gathering by noticing subtle changes in his facial blood distribution, identifying a critical arterial blockage before he experienced an overt heart attack. Military target identification. During the Gulf War, Lieutenant Commander Michael Riley ordered an incoming target on a radar screen shot down. While the radar signature matched that of friendly aircraft, Riley recognized subtle differences in speed and altitude, correctly identifying an incoming enemy missile and protecting his ship. Radiology expertise. Professional radiologists routinely identify early signs of stroke on brain scans long before formal structural abnormalities become clear to junior residents. However, automatic habits can lead to mindless mistakes if left unmonitored. Clear highlights a retail worker who swiped a customer's credit card and immediately cut it in half with scissors because the previous 3 transactions had involved expired gift cards that required destruction. 2. Pointing and calling safety protocol. To counter mindless automatic execution, you must raise non-conscious triggers into conscious awareness. The Japanese railway system implemented a safety protocol known as pointing and calling. Train operators do not merely look at signals, they point directly at gauges, signals, and timetables while vocalizing their status out loud. For example, when approaching a signal, the driver points and announces, "Signal is green." This multisensory protocol engages vision, physical movement, speech, and hearing simultaneously. It reduces operational errors by up to 85% across Japanese rail systems. It cuts industrial workplace accidents by 30%. The MTA subway system in New York City adopted a pointing protocol that reduced subway positioning errors by 57% within 2 years. 3. The Habits Scorecard. The Habits Scorecard is an exercise designed to raise self-awareness regarding your daily routines. 1. Write down a complete, chronological list of every behavior you perform during a typical day, from waking up to going to sleep. 2. Evaluate each action based on its long-term impact on your life. Mark a plus sign for a net positive habit. Mark a minus sign for a net negative habit. Mark an equals sign for a neutral habit. To evaluate ambiguous habits, ask yourself, does this behavior help me become the type of person I want to be, or does it cast a vote against my desired identity? As Carl Jung noted, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Section VI Implementation, Intentions and Habit Stacking 1. The Power of Implementation Intentions. In 2001, a study conducted in Great Britain tracked 248 participants over 2 weeks to establish consistent exercise routines. The subjects were divided into 3 test groups. Group 1, Control, simply tracked how often they exercised. Group 2, Motivation, tracked exercise frequency and read educational materials explaining the cardiovascular benefits of physical exercise. Group 3, Implementation Intention, received the same educational materials as Group 2, but were also asked to formulate a specific plan outlining the exact time and location they would exercise. The results were striking. Group 1 achieved an exercise adherence rate of 35%. Group 2 achieved an exercise adherence rate of 38%. Group 3 achieved an exercise adherence rate of 91%. Implementation intentions work by leveraging time and location, the 2 most reliable triggers in your environment. The implementation intention formula: I will perform this specific action at this time in this location. Examples include meditation. I will meditate for 1 minute at 7 a.m. in my kitchen. Language study. I will practice Spanish for 15 minutes at 6 p.m. at my desk. 2. The Diderot effect and habit stacking. The Diderot effect occurs when buying a new item triggers a chain reaction of additional purchases. In 1765, French philosopher Denis Diderot lived in financial hardship until Empress Catherine the Great of Russia purchased his personal library for £1,000 sterling. With his new wealth, Diderot purchased an elegant scarlet robe. However, once he owned the robe, he noticed that his old furniture, worn rug, and plain desk looked out of place beside it. This prompted him to replace his rug, furniture, mirrors, and kitchen tables, accumulating debt in the process. Habit stacking, developed by B.J. Fogg as part of his Tiny Habits framework, uses this natural behavioral momentum to build new habits. Instead of tying a new habit to a specific time or location, you anchor it directly to an established daily routine. The habit stacking formula. After completing my current habit, I will perform my new habit. Examples include morning routine. After I pour my morning coffee, I will meditate for 60 seconds. After I meditate for 60 seconds, I will write down my daily priority list. After I write down my priority list, I will immediately begin my top priority task. Physical health. After I take off my work shoes, I will immediately change into my exercise clothes. To ensure success, your trigger habit must be specific and clear. Replacing a vague trigger like when I take a break with a clear trigger like when I close my laptop for lunch eliminates hesitation and makes execution automatic. Section 7. Environment Design and Choice Architecture 1. Choice Architecture in Action. In a 6-month study led by Dr. Anne Thorndike at Massachusetts General Hospital, researchers tested whether altering a cafeteria's physical layout could change customer choices without relying on verbal persuasion or willpower. Researchers altered the availability of options throughout the dining hall. Originally, soda was available only in main refrigerator units located beside the food line. Researchers added bottled water to the main refrigerators and placed dedicated baskets filled with bottled water next to every major food station. The results were achieved without speaking to a single customer. Soda sales dropped by 11.4%. Bottled water sales increased by 25.8%. Human behavior is heavily shaped by how choices are presented. Economist Hawkins Stern defined this as suggestion impulse buying, where simply seeing an item triggers the desire to purchase it. Retail end caps, displays positioned at the end of shopping aisles, drive significant sales volume because they occupy prime visual space. For example, 45% of all Coca-Cola sales are generated from end cap displays. 2. Sensory dominance and environmental design. The human nervous system contains approximately 11 million sensory receptors. Over 10 million of those receptors are dedicated exclusively to vision. Visual cues serve as the most powerful triggers for human behavior. Psychologist Kurt Lewin expressed human behavior using a simple equation in 1936. Behavior is a function of the person acting within their environment. Strategies for environmental design. Healthy eating. Place a bowl of fresh fruit on the center of the kitchen counter instead of hiding it in the refrigerator drawer. Medication adherence. Place pill bottles directly next to the bathroom sink faucet. Musical practice. Place your guitar on a stand in the middle of the living room rather than keeping it packed away in a closet. 3. The one space, one use rule. Environmental cues are defined by context. Clinical studies on insomnia demonstrate that patients sleep better when they train themselves to use their bed exclusively for sleeping. Browsing on a phone, watching television, or working in bed creates mixed cues, causing the brain to associate the bed with alertness rather than rest. To establish clear environmental cues, create dedicated spaces for different activities within your home, such as using one chair strictly for reading and a specific desk strictly for work. Maintain clear boundaries on digital devices by using your laptop exclusively for work tasks, a tablet for reading, and a smartphone for messaging and social media. Section 8. Context, willpower, and self-control. 1. The Vietnam Heroin Addiction Study in 1971 U.S. Congressmen Robert Steele and Morgan Murphy visited military personnel stationed in Vietnam and discovered that over 15% of American service members were addicted to heroin. Follow-up research led by Dr. Lee Robbins revealed that 35% of U.S. troops had tried heroin and 20% were actively addicted. Civilian drug rehabilitation programs typically show a 90% relapse rate once patients return home. However, when Dr. Robbins tracked the returning veterans, she observed a striking difference. Only 5% of addicted veterans relapsed within their first year back in the United States. Only 12% relapsed over a 3-year period. This shift occurred because the environmental triggers that drove the addiction, the stress of active combat, easy access to heroin, social isolation, and surrounding peer usage, were completely absent once veterans returned home. Changing their physical context removed the cues that triggered the habit loop. 2. The myth of self-control research demonstrates that individuals perceived as having high self-control do not possess superior willpower. Instead, they structure their environments to minimize exposure to tempting cues. Relying on willpower is a short-term strategy. You may resist temptation once or twice, but continuously fighting environmental triggers drains your mental energy. Breaking a bad habit requires removing the cue from your environment altogether, making it invisible, rather than relying on sheer self-control to resist it. Section IX. The second law, make it attractive. 1. Dopamine feedback loops and supernormal stimuli. In the 1950s, Dutch biologist Nico Tinbergen conducted experiments on animal behavior using supernormal stimuli. He observed that female herring gulls have a small red spot on their beaks, which their chicks tap to request regurgitated food. Tinbergen created artificial wooden beaks, featuring larger, brighter red spots. When presented with these oversized fake beaks, the chicks tapped at them twice as fast as they did at their real mother's beaks. Modern commercial products operate as supernormal stimuli for the human brain. Processed foods combine precise ratios of fat, sugar, and salt to create a taste profile that maximizes neurological reward, exceeding anything found in nature. Neuroscience reveals that dopamine is released not only when you experience pleasure, but also when you anticipate it. Dopamine spikes during the anticipation phase, driving you to take action. The desire to achieve a reward is what motivates behavior, rather than the reward itself. 2. Temptation bundling and Premack's principle. Temptation bundling works by pairing an action you need to do with an action you want to do. This approach leverages Premack's principle, which states that more probable behaviors will reinforce less probable behaviors. Clear highlights engineering student Ronan Byrne, who enjoyed watching Netflix but knew he needed to exercise more. He hacked a stationary exercise bike by connecting it to his laptop using custom software. The software allowed Netflix to play only if Byrne pedaled above a specific speed. If his pedaling slowed down, the video paused. By bundling his desire to watch Netflix with the necessity of exercising, he built a consistent workout habit. Combining temptation bundling with habit stacking. 1. After my current habit, I will perform the habit I need. 2. After the habit I need, I will perform the habit I want. Example. 1. After I finish my morning sales calls, current habit, I will do 10 push-ups. Habit I need. 2. After I complete 10 push-ups, I will check sports highlights. Habit I want. 3. The influence of social norms. Humans are social animals driven by a deep evolutionary need to belong to a tribe. For most of human history, being cast out from the tribe meant certain death. As a result, we naturally adopt behaviors that earn praise and acceptance from our community. Clear highlights the Polgar sisters, Susan, Sophia, and Judith, whose father, Laszlo Polgar, raised them in an environment dedicated entirely to chess education. All three sisters became world-class prodigies, with Judith becoming the youngest grandmaster in history at age 15. To the Polgar sisters, studying chess was not a chore. It was the normal praised behavior of their household. We naturally imitate the habits of three social groups. The close. We adopt habits from our family, friends, and peers. Joining a group where your desired behavior is the normal behavior makes habit formation far easier. The many. We look to the majority to guide our choices when we are uncertain. The desire to conform to group norms often outweighs individual preferences. The powerful. We emulate the habits of successful, high-status individuals because we desire status and approval. Section X. The third law. Make it easy. 1. Repetition, overtime, and neurological adaptation. In a photojournalism class at the University of Florida, Professor Jerry Uelsman split his students into two groups. The quantity group, graded entirely on the sheer volume of photos they produced. Submitting 100 photos earned an A, 90 earned a B, and so on. The quality group, graded on a single perfect photograph. At the end of the term, the highest quality photographs were produced by the quantity group. While the quality group spent time reading theory and sitting around waiting for perfection, the quantity group spent time taking photos, experimenting with lighting, learning from mistakes, and honing their technical skills through repetition. Habit formation relies on practice, not time. Repetition triggers long-term potentiation, a process where neural connections strengthen as neurons fire together repeatedly. The key to habit formation is not how long you have been doing something, but how many times you have repeated the action. 2. The law of least effort and friction reduction. Human behavior follows the law of least effort. When choosing between two similar options, people naturally gravitate toward the one that requires the least physical or mental energy. To build good habits, you must reduce the friction that stands between you and the action. Exercise. Lay out your workout clothes and gear the night before. Healthy eating. Meal prep healthy foods on Sunday so meals are ready during the week. To break bad habits, you must increase the friction that separates you from the behavior. Excessive TV use. Unplug the television after every use and remove the batteries from the remote control. Distracting apps. Log out of social media accounts after every session or delete the apps from your phone entirely. 3. The 2-minute rule. When starting a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to complete. The goal is to make the habit as easy as possible to initiate, because starting is often the hardest part. You can scale down almost any goal into a 2-minute habit. Read 30 books a year becomes read 1 page. Run 5 miles becomes tie my running shoes. Fold the laundry becomes fold 1 pair of socks. You must establish a habit before you can optimize it. You cannot refine a habit that does not exist. Clear highlights a man who used the 2-minute rule to lose over 100 pounds. He drove to the gym every day, but instituted a strict rule. He was not allowed to stay for longer than 5 minutes. He would walk in, exercise for 5 minutes, and immediately leave. After doing this for several weeks, he established the identity of someone who goes to the gym every day. Once the routine of showing up was solid, he gradually expanded his workouts. 4. Commitment devices and one-time choices. A commitment device is a decision you make in the present that locks in better choices in the future. In 1830, French author Victor Hugo faced an impossible deadline to complete his novel The Hunchback of Notre Dame. To eliminate distractions, he gathered all his clothes, locked them away, and left himself with only a large knit shawl. Unable to leave his home, he stayed inside and wrote continuously, finishing the book months ahead of schedule. Automating one-time choices can permanently lock in beneficial habits. Purchase a smaller plate size to naturally reduce portion control. Set up automated transfers to your savings account on payday. Remove the television from your bedroom to improve sleep quality. Section Exon the fourth law. Make it satisfying. 1. The cardinal rule of behavior change. What is immediately rewarded is repeated. What is immediately punished is avoided. The human brain evolved in an immediate return environment, where actions produced direct, immediate consequences. Early humans focused on securing food, shelter, and safety in the moment. Modern society operates in a delayed return environment, where actions today, such as saving money, eating healthily, or studying, produce rewards weeks, months, or years down the line. Because your brain naturally favors immediate gratification over delayed rewards, successful habit formation requires adding a small, immediate reward to habits that pay off over time. 2. Habit trackers and visual progress. Habit tracking leverages visual evidence to provide an immediate sense of satisfaction. Clear highlights Trent Dursmid, a 23-year-old stockbroker at a firm in Edmonton, Canada. Dursmid kept 2 jars on his desk. One jar was filled with 120 paper clips, the other was empty. Every morning he made sales calls, moving one paperclip to the empty jar after each call. He continued calling until all 120 paperclips had been moved. Within 18 months, he brought in over $5 million in business to the firm. Habit tracking provides 3 primary benefits. It makes habits obvious. Visual progress serves as a clear reminder to act. It makes habits attractive. Seeing your progress grow creates momentum. It makes habits satisfying. Crossing off a task or moving a paperclip provides an immediate micro-reward. 3. The never miss twice rule. Missing a habit once is an accident. Missing it twice is the start of a new habit. Perfection is never required to maintain long-term progress. The difference between successful individuals and unsuccessful ones is not that successful people never make mistakes. It is that they recover quickly. If you miss a workout, eat an unhealthy meal, or forget to meditate, focus on getting back on track immediately. Slips happen, but committing to never missing twice keeps a single bad day from turning into a long-term decline. 4. Accountability partners and habit contracts. Just as an immediate reward reinforces good habits, an immediate cost discourages bad ones. A habit contract is a written or verbal agreement that outlines your commitment to a specific habit, along with a clear punishment if you fail to execute. Clear highlights entrepreneur Brian Harris, who drafted a formal habit contract to stay consistent with his health routines. The contract was signed by both his wife and his personal trainer. If he missed tracking his food intake, he had to pay his trainer $100. If he failed to weigh himself daily, he owed his wife $50. Knowing that failure carried an immediate monetary cost and public embarrassment kept him consistently accountable. Section 12. Advanced Tactics. Going from good to great. 1. The role of genetics and talent. Genetics do not eliminate the need for hard work. They clarify where to direct your effort. Choosing the right area of focus makes habit formation far easier. Clear compares Olympic champions Michael Phelps and Hicham Guerrouj. Michael Phelps is a 6'4" swimmer with a long torso and relatively short legs. Hicham Guerrouj is a 5'9" distance runner with an extraordinarily long torso-to-leg ratio, suited for running. Both athletes possess identical inseams on their trousers, despite a 7-inch difference in total height. If Phelps attempted to compete as a professional distance runner, or if Guerrouj attempted to compete as an Olympic swimmer, their genetic profiles would work against them. Aligning your habits with your natural strengths allows you to maximize your potential. To find where your natural strengths lie, reflect on these questions. What feels like fun to me, but feels like work to others? What makes me lose track of time? Where do I get greater returns than the average person? What comes naturally to me? 2. The Goldilocks zone and the boredom barrier. Humans experience peak motivation when working on tasks that sit right at the edge of their current abilities, a concept known as the Goldilocks zone. Tasks that are too easy lead to boredom, while tasks that are too difficult cause anxiety and frustration. Managing a challenge that is roughly 4% beyond your current capability helps maintain focus and drive. The greatest threat to long-term success is not failure. It is boredom. As habits become automatic, they become less novel and less exciting. Successful individuals feel the same boredom as everyone else, but they find a way to stay consistent regardless. Anyone can work hard when motivation is high. The ability to keep going when work feels repetitive is what separates top performers from everyone else. 3. The downside of good habits and reflection reviews. While habits create execution speed, they can also lead to mindlessness if left unexamined. Repeating a habit automatically without feedback can cause performance to plateau. Habits plus deliberate practice equals mastery. Mastery requires pairing automatic habits with deliberate practice and structured reflection. Clear implements a 2-part review system to maintain high performance. The annual review, conducted at the end of each year. 1. What went well this year? 2. What did not go well this year? 3. What did I learn? The integrity report, conducted every summer. 1. What are the core values that drive my life and work? 2. How am I living and working with integrity right now? 3. How can I set a higher standard in the future? Regular reflection prevents you from falling into automatic routines, keeps your identity flexible, and ensures that your habits continue to serve your long-term growth.